Waking up between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. is not an accident. It is life giving you a chance to reset and move ahead. That's the truth most people don't see. They roll over, close their eyes, and waste the most powerful hours of the day. But those who understand what this time means treat it as a signal to act. This is the window where your focus is sharp, your mind is calm, and your discipline can grow stronger. The question is simple: do you use it or do you lose it? The choice you make in those hours will shape your confidence, your habits, and the path of your future. In this audiobook, I will walk you through 3 specific things you must do when you wake up between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. They are practical, clear, and life-changing if you take them seriously. Chapter 1. Get out of bed immediately and refuse to snooze. When the alarm rings between 3 and 5 in the morning, you are standing at the doorway of one of the most powerful decisions of your life. That sound is not just a signal to wake up. It is a test of your discipline, your strength, and your seriousness about creating a better future. In that moment, you have 2 options. You can hit snooze, roll over, and delay the life you keep saying you want. Or you can get up immediately, put your feet on the floor, and show yourself that you mean business. Success begins in the smallest acts, and few things are smaller yet more important than the choice you make in those quiet, early hours. Why is it so critical to refuse the snooze button? Because snoozing is more than just stealing a few extra minutes of sleep. It is a message you send to yourself. You're saying, "I can wait. I'll try again later. I'll give in to comfort one more time." The problem is that this message doesn't stay in the bedroom. It leaks into the rest of your day. If you give in when it's easy to snooze, you will likely give in when it's easy to avoid work, skip the workout, or postpone that one task you've been putting off. Discipline is built and broken in these small, private decisions. Getting up the moment your alarm rings builds trust with yourself. You keep the promise you made the night before, and nothing is more powerful than learning to trust yourself. Picture this. The alarm rings at 3:45 a.m. You reach over and silence it, but instead of lying back down, you sit up. The room is still dark. It feels different than any other time of day. The world outside is quiet. No traffic, no distractions, no noise. It's just you and the decision you made. Your mind might whisper, "Go back to bed. Nobody's watching." But remember this: you're always watching. Your own eyes see everything you do, and your own heart records every choice. When you get out of bed immediately, you feel a sense of control. You feel alive. That energy follows you into the rest of your day. The pride of victory in that one small battle gives you momentum to win more. Most people fail not because they don't have dreams, but because they can't win these small battles. They promise themselves, "Tomorrow, I'll wake up early." But when tomorrow comes, the bed feels too warm, the pillow feels too soft, and they decide to snooze. What they don't realize is that every time they snooze, they weaken the muscle of discipline. It's not just about sleeping longer. It's about training the mind to quit before the day has even started. If you want to change your life, you must start by changing these hidden habits. Getting up immediately is like setting the tone for everything that follows. You tell yourself, "I am in charge. I don't delay. I act." Think about how powerful that is. You say you want success. You say you want to be healthier, wealthier, happier. But how do you prove it to yourself? You prove it by getting up when it's hard. Because if you can do the hard thing when no one is watching, then you can certainly do the hard things later when the world is watching. If you win at 3 in the morning, you will win at 3 in the afternoon. If you start the day by refusing excuses, you build the character that refuses excuses in every other part of your life. Now, waking up early is not just about discipline, it is also about opportunity. When you rise between 3 and 5, you gain hours that most people waste. Those hours are yours. They are quiet, they are free from interruptions, and they allow you to focus in a way that is impossible later in the day. Imagine what you could do with 2 or 3 extra hours every single morning. Over a year, that adds up to hundreds of hours. That's time you can use to read, to write, to exercise, to learn a skill, to plan your goals. That's time to build a future that others say is impossible. And it all begins with the courage to throw off the blanket and stand up when your body is begging you to stay down. Some people say, "I can't get up early. I'm not a morning person." But that's not true. It's not about being a morning person. It's about being a disciplined person. You don't need to enjoy the first few minutes. You just need to win them. Nobody enjoys leaving the warmth of the bed at 3:30 in the morning. But the joy comes later, when you realize how much stronger you are than your excuses. The satisfaction comes when you look back at the end of the week and see how much you accomplished because you refused to waste the most valuable hours of your day. Human psychology works like this. Your brain craves comfort. It wants to protect you from anything unpleasant. But comfort is the enemy of progress. Comfort is what keeps you where you are. To grow, you must train your brain to do what is uncomfortable until it becomes normal. Waking up early and refusing the snooze button is the simplest training ground for this. Every morning, you practice telling your brain, "I'm in control, not you." Over time, that builds a mental toughness that carries into everything else. You no longer hesitate when it's time to speak up in a meeting or make a decision or push yourself in the gym. You've trained your identity to act instead of delay. Now, I want you to imagine the difference in your day. 2 people set their alarms for 4:30. The first one snoozes 3 times, gets up tired and rushed, and begins the day already behind. Their mind is clouded, their energy is low, and their attitude is weak. The second one sits up immediately, splashes water on their face, takes a deep breath, and walks into the day with a clear mind and calm confidence. Which person do you want to be? The difference is not talent. It's not intelligence. It's the decision to get up and refuse to snooze. One choice creates momentum, the other creates regret. And let's talk about regret. Because nothing weighs heavier than the feeling that you wasted your time. When you snooze, you might think you're gaining rest, but what you're really gaining is regret. You know you could have been up building your future. You know you could have used that time to work on yourself. That regret follows you. It eats away at your confidence. On the other hand, when you rise immediately, you feel proud. You feel strong. You start the day already ahead of most of the world. That pride builds confidence. That confidence pushes you to do more. And doing more builds results. This is how change begins, not in big leaps, but in small victories, one morning at a time. Some will argue, "I can just work at night instead." That's fine if it works for you, but most nights are filled with distractions. People call you, notifications pop up, responsibilities demand your attention. Early morning hours are pure. Nobody expects anything from you. The world is asleep. That's why it's the best time to take control. If you snooze, you miss this gift. If you rise, you own it. That's why I say the morning is not just a time of day, it's a test of your seriousness. If you pass the test, you earn the reward of a day lived on your terms. Here's the truth. Life will not change by accident. It changes when you decide to take control. Getting up immediately may feel like a small act, but it's a declaration. It says, "I am serious about my goals. I will not waste my time. I will not give in to weakness." And when you say this to yourself every morning, through action, not words, you build a reputation with yourself. You become someone who follows through, someone who acts, someone who can be trusted to do what they said they would do. Think about the areas of your life you want to improve: your health, your finances, your relationships, your confidence. All of them require discipline, and discipline begins in the smallest choices. If you cannot say no to the snooze button, how will you say no to temptation later in the day? If you cannot get out of bed when you said you would, how will you keep the bigger promises you've made to yourself? Success is not built on the big stages. It's built in these hidden moments, when nobody sees you, but you see you. So, when that alarm rings between 3 and 5, remember who you are. Remember what you want. Remember that comfort will not give it to you. Discipline will. And discipline begins with this: get out of bed immediately and refuse to snooze. Put your feet on the floor. Stand up. Breathe in the cool air of a new day. Remind yourself that you are in charge. And then move into your day with pride and confidence, knowing that you've already won the first battle. Because when you start strong, you keep strong. And when you win the morning, you give yourself the best chance to win your life. Chapter 2. Look in the mirror and tell yourself you can. When you wake between 3 and 5 in the morning and stand in front of the mirror, you are facing the most important person in your life. No teacher, no mentor, no friend, no partner, and no critic has more influence on your destiny than the person looking back at you. This is the moment where you shape the story you live by. The words you speak to yourself at this hour are seeds you plant in your mind. Those seeds grow into confidence, courage, and belief, or into doubt, fear, and hesitation. The choice is yours, and it begins with something as simple yet powerful as looking into your own eyes and telling yourself, you can. People underestimate how much their own words matter. They speak carelessly to themselves in ways they would never speak to someone they love. They say things like, I'm not good enough, or I'll probably fail again. Those words sink in. They create a quiet agreement in the mind, a hidden permission to stay average. But when you stand in front of the mirror and choose to say the opposite, you are breaking that cycle. You are reprogramming your mind. You are telling yourself, I can push through, I can change, I can grow. This isn't about lying or pretending, it's about reminding yourself that your potential is greater than your excuses. The early hours are the perfect time for this because your mind is quiet. The world is silent. Nobody is demanding your attention. You are left with nothing but your thoughts and your reflection. In that stillness, your words echo louder. If you stand in the mirror and whisper defeat, that becomes your truth. But if you stand there and speak strength, you set a different tone for the entire day. Psychology tells us that the first words we hear and repeat in the morning have a lasting impact on our emotional state. So when you look in the mirror and affirm your ability, you are literally programming your mind to approach the day with power. This practice is not about ego. It is about truth. Most people spend more time listening to their doubts than affirming their strengths. They allow the memory of past mistakes to define their future. But you are not the same person you were yesterday. You've lived another day, learned another lesson, and built another piece of wisdom. When you look in the mirror at 4 a.m. and say, you can, you are not ignoring your past. You are rising above it. You are refusing to let yesterday decide today. You are declaring that growth is possible, and that today you will step closer to the person you want to become. The mirror does something powerful. It strips away excuses. It shows you exactly who you are in this moment. There's no filter, no mask, no pretending, just you. That honesty can feel uncomfortable because it forces you to admit the truth about your habits, your discipline, and your choices. But that honesty is where change begins. When you say, I can, you are not denying that there is work to do. You are simply affirming that you are capable of doing it. You are giving yourself the permission to try, to act, to move forward, without waiting for perfect conditions. Think of how often people wait for encouragement from others. They hope someone else will believe in them, recognize them, or validate them. But what if that encouragement never comes? What if people doubt you, or worse, ignore you? That's why self-belief is essential. When you look in the mirror and say, "You can," you are giving yourself the support that the world may not give you. You are learning to be your own ally instead of your own enemy. You are taking responsibility for your mindset instead of waiting for someone else to hand it to you. Now, understand that saying "I can" is not just a phrase, it's a commitment. When you tell yourself this, you are also making a silent contract. You're saying, "I can, therefore I will try. I can, therefore I will take the next step. I can, therefore I will not back down when it gets hard." Empty words don't carry power, but words tied to intention become the fuel of transformation. That's why when you stand in the mirror, don't just say it, mean it. Feel it in your chest. Let it move from your lips into your heart. Let it become the instruction that guides your actions for the rest of the day. The science of human behavior confirms this. Your subconscious mind is influenced by repetition and emotion. The more often you affirm a thought with feeling, the deeper it sinks into your identity. If every morning you look into your reflection and say, "You can," with conviction, your brain begins to accept it as truth. Over time, that truth shapes your decisions. You start applying for opportunities